Yeah. One, your understanding of life world is not very accurate. Uh,
Okay.
initially, Habermas had called it the life world system. Okay, and later on, he dropped the system because he took it into the life world itself and talked about the possibility of systemic uh, colonialism. Okay, so I'll get to that in a minute, but let's start with Weber. Okay, now if you look at Max Weber, what you basically find in Weber is a concatenation of several things.
So
And
what are several things?
concatenation, coming together of
Okay.
several ideas, and that is like eclectic, okay, many ideas coming in. And his idea of rationality is actually tied to legality. Okay, and he and Emile Durkheim have one thing in common. They believe that rational societies tend to grow like organisms. So before I get to this part, let me give you an introduction to his typology of history. Okay. If you look at anybody who's using uh, time periods of history in in the Western world, you will find that one of the dominant uh, entities is Christianity. Okay, so everything is either before Christianity or after Christianity. Christianity or the ages which were, or the entire age which was dominated by Christendom, has later on been uh, classified as a dark age. Okay, some people call it dark ages, some people just say it's a dark age. Whatever it is, the medieval period or the Middle Ages, some people call it that, both of them are the same. Now, so why are we calling the Christian period as the Dark Ages? They are being called the Dark Ages for the simple reason that one of the biggest uh, one of the biggest uh, controversies that you will see in this particular period is the controversy between uh, is the controversy between what should I say? Um why are there two of you? Anyway, doesn't matter. Uh, the controversy is between faith and reason. Okay, if you look at if you basically look at the ancient period, okay, the ancient period is defined as the one that was before the rise of Christendom. So you have this is Europe, of course, not the world history. Initially, at some point, European historians tried to tell us that this is world history, but it is not world history. It is the history of Europe specifically. And what you find is that before the rise of Christendom and dominance of Christendom, you would find that the ancient world comprised of the Greeks and the Romans. Now, the Romans are not as important to us as the Greeks are because the Greek period is teeming with various different kinds of attempts at explanation of what the world is. Some of them, if you look at the Milesians, those are materialistic ways of trying to look at the world. Or if you look at the ontological uh, part of the world, part of the Greek philosophy, Greek world, which is Parmenides and Zeno. And this will tell you that the material world is not important. A point that is borrowed by Plato when he wrote his Republic, which was, like I told you, some time ago or a long time ago.
So one thing, can you explain what ontological is?
Ontology, see, there are two forms of uh, looking for knowledge. Okay. One is called epistemology, 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 and the other one is ontology. Epistemology comes from the Greek episteme, and episteme is essentially a framework. Okay, so when you are talking about epistemology, what you are talking about is essentially how people will tell you that there is no need to justify why I should have knowledge. Okay? If you're an epistemologist, if somebody asks you, why should I have knowledge? What will happen if I don't have knowledge? Yeah, you'll say there is no reason why you should question that. Uh, it is almost axiomatic, uh, the search for knowledge. You have to search for it. Okay. So somehow in this, there is a division between what we call appearance and essence. Okay, this is something we'll talk about when we uh, come to some other thinkers in the future. Uh, but ontology, on the contrary, believes that knowledge is purposive. Okay, it's not like, oh, I have to have knowledge, and why should I have knowledge? That is because it is compulsory to have knowledge. That is not what it is. Okay. What ontology will tell you is that all knowledge is for the purpose of finding out why we are in this world. What is the purpose of our life? Why are we here in the world? And to come down to the 20th century and pick up Martin Heidegger. Heidegger has a wonderful explanation about ontology. Okay, he says Our being born is like being thrown. Okay? We are just being thrown somewhere. So he says, our being born is like being thrown, meaning we are thrown into a thick forest. Uh, there is nothing you can see for more than 3 or 4 feet. Okay, there's a canopy, the forest canopy on the top is pretty dense. The uh, the trees are bunched up together, so you don't you don't even know where you are, what this thing is. So he says that when you're thrown like this into the world, a world which is like a thick forest, he basically says that you have to look for a clearing. Okay, a clearing is where the denseness of the forest is no longer an impediment. So you move away from, from the dense trees and the canopy. You come out into uh, a little bit of a space from where you can see other things. You can look up and see the sky. You can look around you and you can see soil, and you might even be able to catch a glimpse or two of different animals. So that is the clearing. And getting to the clearing is the beginning of ontological knowledge. Ontological because I have to know who I am. Why am I here? I don't know. I asked myself this question a number of times when I was a kid. What? Why are we in this world? Why do we have to go through this? Especially when I went to school. One of the raging questions in my head was, why do we have to go to school? I mean, uh, what is there in this school thing that is so important? Okay, so most people hate going to school, and so people will say, why should I do this? Right? So the question is, you should be able to answer all these questions that pertain to your existence. Okay? So basically, what you have to look at is if epistemology is the pursuit of knowledge, okay? Ontology is the pursuit of existence. Okay, pursuit of existence in the sense trying to know who I am. Why am I what I am? So we were last time when we met, we were talking about Kafka and the whole existential movement in Germany and France. And this is what it is about. You know, why do we have to follow rules and regulations? Right? Why do we have to follow rules and regulations? So this is the ontological part of the world of knowledge. So there are quite a few people, especially in the 20th century, who pursued ontology very, very seriously. But when I talk to you about the Greek notion of ontology, it is devoid of all the complexities of the modern notion, which I talked to you about. Parmenides will be called an ontological thinker because Parmenides was somebody who thought he had made sense of our life. he thought he had made sense of our existence. Okay, so that's why he's called ontological, but is not ontological in this modern sense of the term that we just saw. So you'll see that the Middle Ages on one side has this very bright and shining Greek period, followed by a not too bad Roman period, but that is more of conquest rather than knowledge. And then we come to this whole idea of what do we say? Uh, we come to this whole idea of uh, the modern period, which is again very bright. And when we say that it is bright, what we are saying in effect is that again there are attempts being made to increase the knowledge of the human being about himself, about the universe. Okay, so people like Galileo, people like Copernicus, people like Kepler, all these people were very early scientists. There were some scientists even before them, but we'll talk about them another time. Uh, those people were called the Paduans, and they gave the nascent scientific method to us. Anyway, so pardon me. So if you look at the Greek period, it is luminous. If you look at the modern period, it is again luminous. You have Newton, you have uh, Einstein, and several other people. Okay, even people like Francis Bacon. Uh, so if you look at all this, the Middle Ages is devoid of any kind of accomplishment by the human being. Okay, there is no accomplishment that one can attribute to the
Sir,
human
Middle Ages being referring to what sort of time period?
time period would be around the 5th century CE to the 16th century CE. Okay, or if you like, you can use AD, but people don't use AD anymore. It is CE, common era. So there's nothing common about the era, but nevertheless. Okay, all right. So we are looking at this uh, dark period in between, and whatever we see is before and after, which is luminous. Uh, Now, the controversy that I was talking to you about, that people faced on a regular basis in the medieval period, was that people were actively dissuaded from using their rational faculty. Okay. In fact, the rational faculty was derided as being the domain of uh, the domain of what do we say of Satan. Okay, Satan trying to make you believe that he is uh, make me believe that you are capable of knowing for yourself when you don't know. You can't know. So why can't you know? Okay, why can't you know? The answer that the Christian uh, clergy was that unless you have created something, okay, unless you have created something, you cannot understand what that thing is. We didn't create this world. So we know that most religions believe in creationism. And so you see the thing that is being said here is, I mean, if those of you are familiar with the Bible, you know, on the first day God created so and so, second day he created so and so. Okay, and on the seventh day he took rest, and that is the day which is Sunday, and that's the reason why it's a holiday, right? So uh, now, if you uh, basically uh, look at the argument from the clergymen from the church, they said God created the universe, so only God understands its functioning. Only God understands its functioning. Okay, you with your limited rationality as a human being, you cannot at any instance try and understand the whole idea of this world. Why is it here? Why are we in it? You're not supposed to question. You're only supposed to abide with what is written in the Bible. Now, please remember here that these are the days of gross illiteracy. So most people couldn't read, and the Bible was available only in Latin and only to the clergymen. And so, what the clergy preached from the pew was what was supposed to be the truth, the real knowledge, true knowledge. And if anybody contradicted this, then you would go to hell. Okay? And there would be very bad punishments. If you have the time, please look at Michel Foucault's Discipline and Punish. Uh, in that, there is one particular chapter which is called the spectacle of the scaffold. Okay, so all punishments were in public, right? They were completely in public, and punishments usually uh, were like burning people uh, at the stake, burning them alive at the stake. And the other thing that is uh, the other thing uh, that was done was that people would be tied with their four limbs to four different horses, and the horses would be made to run in different directions. So obviously the body will just become pieces.
These are punishments for going against the preachings.
Right. So the whole idea was that if you don't want people to question you, if you don't want people to question you, then you intimidate them. Okay, you intimidate them. So that was the principle, intimidation. But when we come to the modern period, we find that things are a bit different. Okay. Now, uh, since today I'm answering Nida's questions, I won't get into that bit today. But maybe next time when we meet, I will tell you how things transited from this domination of Christianity uh, towards uh, the lack of domination of Christianity. Okay. In fact, I had once told you that we had to do three things. We had to put three things together, and those were the nation, state, and politics. And if you want, you can add power to it. Okay. Please remember, I'm sorry, politics disappears as a word after the Greek period and reappears only with Machiavelli. Okay, in the middle, nowhere do you find the word politics. And that is because of the fact that the word is closely attached to the idea of a polis. And a polis is not a city state, as I told you, it is far more uh, complicated than that. Okay, it also incorporates into itself a certain notion of society that the Greeks had. Okay, and that is the reason why Aristotle talked about koinonia politike, which we today talk about as civil society. Okay, but we'll come to that a little later. Just let me get to this point of rationality. When you look at the modern period sees the rise of human rationality, and it also sees a lot of demystification of the natural world. Okay, the natural world is demystified. You don't attribute floods or famines to acts of God. Okay, you only say that this is a natural phenomenon triggered by certain lack of certain elements required to trigger it. Or if you have excessive rainfall, you say there's a depression that brought too much of rainfall. So you have an explanation for that in scientific terms, which uses naturalist language rather than supernaturalist language. Okay, so this is what is the time in which we look at different kinds of people. Okay, uh, now Marx was one of the first people to attempt a certain kind of uh, drawing of uh, the movement of history in Europe. Okay, so he called the first phase of human civilization the primitive phase. He called the second phase uh, the feudal phase, and he called the third phase the capitalist phase. Okay, this is the typology with which uh, Marx was operating. He said we are now in the capitalist period, and he didn't think that the capitalist period will last. He believed that if people realized, yeah, raise it. You raised your hand. Can't hear you.
Hello. Okay, now my mic's working. Then in that which you said of phases of human history, wasn't there also the phase of slave society?
Slavery
Then
phase is something that is normally seen together with the feudal period. Uh, so, and slavery was also there in the ancient period of history. So he didn't really classify the slavery as a separate thing.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, he would say that uh, primitive phase gives way uh, to the feudal phase, which gives way to the capitalist phase. And he says all human history is the history of class struggle. Okay, so in each of these periods, there are two primary classes which are completely antagonistic to each other in terms of their interests. Okay, so he would say the primitive period is relatively egalitarian, but if you come down to the feudal period, you have the whole idea of grabbing land and saying this is my property and creating a class of people who are either slaves or serfs or both. And you find that the interests of these people are against that of the feudal lords. Now, why are the interests of the slaves or the serfs against the interests of the feudal lords? That is because of the fact that uh, the feudal lords don't do any work, but they tax. They tax the peasant. They don't pay proper salaries to their servants. And the slaves, of course, there's no question of there being any salary. So you will see that Marx says that there is a reduction of the small farmer into a farm laborer on his own land. Okay, and he's just paid a wage, something like a wage, right? And he has also to pay a bit of a tax. So they are in antagonistic positions and they are supposed to struggle against each other, but due to the lack of class consciousness among the peasants, the serfs, and the slaves, the thing doesn't basically lead to a class war. Okay, it is a lack of consciousness that these people are our enemies. They are not doing us a favor by giving us a job or asking us to uh, till their land or anything like that. Okay, but what happens is that the feudal lords and the king, all of them are used to a certain level of, they are all used to a certain level of income. And you know that this was a time when it was agrarian economy. And agrarian economies are notoriously uh, difficult to predict. One year you may have a bumper crop, and then you may be able to pay a high tax. And another year, if there is a famine or something, you don't have a big crop, and you still, and therefore you can't pay a big tax. Now, here is what you should understand. The kings and the feudal lords refused to see this. They just pressured the peasants, the serfs, to go on as if everything was fine. So, when people don't have money, they can't do anything. People were punished, but let's say you want me to pay you 10 rupees and I don't have it. You hit me, kill me, you don't get it, right? So feudalism lost its generative force. The generative force is the generation of social wealth. Okay, it lost the generative force of social wealth. And as a result, you would see that everybody in the feudal period becomes poor. That includes the feudal lords. They don't become poor as in they are in tatters and rags. They are poorer compared to what they were before. Okay, so everybody is hit by this. Now, from this space between the the aristocrats, or if you want to call them the lords, and the peasants and the serfs, you have the emergence of what uh, Marx calls the bourgeois class. Sorry, he calls it the bourgeois class because he's using the French word bourgeois. Bourgeois basically means the middle, something that is coming out of the middle. So, since it came out of two classes that were mutually opposed to each other, this is a new class which he called the bourgeois class. So, the bourgeois class is actually the capitalist class. Okay, it is the capitalist class. Now, there are various phases of capitalism. You have mercantile capitalism, you have industrial capitalism, you have finance monopoly capitalism. You have different kinds of that. I'm not going to go into that right now. Now, you see that Max Weber is almost a contemporary of Marx. He uses the same three periods of history, but calls them by different names. Primitive period is primitive. The second period, which Marx called the feudal period, uh, this is called by Max Weber as the charismatic period. Okay, and then the third period, according to him, is the legal rational period. Okay, he says the primitive period did not survive because of the absence of any kind of rationality. Okay, and the charismatic period. Now, what is charisma? Okay, charisma actually is the Urdu word karishma, magical quality. Okay, that became charisma for the Englishmen. They made it into charisma. So it is actually charisma. Even Satan was originally shaitan. They couldn't say shaitan, so they made it Satan. Anyway, so the charismatic period is you find people coming into power, and it is extremely difficult to explain as to why these people have risen to power because they don't have any of the qualities that you assume should be there in a good leader. And the absence of this quality is baffling to most people. Now, what Weber says here is that charisma, you don't know. Some people have it. You don't know why they have it, where it comes from, but they have it. And once they have it, they are able to attract other people towards themselves, and therefore they become leaders. In Max Weber's defense, one can point out an example. I don't know if any of you have seen N.T. Ramarao, the Telugu uh, film star. Okay, N.T. Ramarao was, I would look like uh, a very thin person next to him, and he could barely act. Okay, he overacted, but he had this huge fan following in films. NTR films were those which did well always. Now, to confound matters, he suddenly decides that he's going to become a politician. In 9 months, he sets up a party and, you know, pulls people into that party and goes for election and wins, all in 9 months. Okay, so that is charisma. And NTR was aware of the fact that he was a charismatic leader. So he allowed himself this jibe at the Congress where he said, Congress, what party is it? You know, if in my party I put a dog as a candidate, people will vote for it only because I put it there. Okay. So his ego got punctured later on and all. That's a different issue. But that is charisma. How did this man rise like that? Why did people vote for him? Okay. So if you look at this thing about charismatic leadership is inexplicable in rational terms. Okay. And charismatic leaders, just as they rise without any proper reason to rise, they also fall. They also fall. Okay. So Weber said the charismatic period is also not a stable period. Now, what comes after that? And that is because mainly you see, there are attempts at legality in the early modern period by referring to the codification of laws in ancient Rome. So you find people like Hobbes, you find people like Locke, who are basically trying to give some kind of an explanation which is rational for the way in which uh, society functions. Okay, and it is here that you find Weber agreeing with people like Locke. Forget Hobbes, he was only proto modern, was not a totally modern thinker. Locke, and later on, even though he was a skeptic, you have what's his name now? Gone out of my head. 1 minute, please. Oh, this is it. When the harder I try, the lesser the possibility of my getting to it. I'll come back to it if I can. And then there was Edmund Burke. So there were all these other thinkers there. And they all emphasized rationality. And Weber believed that any society that had codified laws or a codified legal system, any society that had that was something which was based in rationality. Okay, and anything that is based in rationality is negotiable. So for him, the modern period, that was Hume, David Hume, the person whose name I was trying to recollect. Yeah. So the thing that you find uh, in Max Weber is the rebuttal of Marx. Okay, where Marx said that uh, the communist period is not the end. There should be something that comes after that. But Max Weber says no. Okay, it's not that. Max Weber argues that because of legal rationality as such, you will find that people are able to, uh, without getting violent, they are able to sit, deliberate, and come to a solution for a problem. So he says it doesn't really matter if there are people, if there are people who are not, what should I say, if there are people who are not really um, getting along with each other, doesn't mean that it'll descend to a fight and warfare. No, he says nothing like that. Modern societies will use the codified legal system in order to, that is the rational part of it, in order to find solutions for those things which are otherwise those things for which we have not found solutions. Okay, so this is the idea of rationality of Weber. So Weber believes that rational ability of the human being and the realization of that rational ability of the human being is actually something which uh, symbolizes the fact that human being has now overcome qualities which are based in caprice, qualities which are based in non-rational terms, and they will lead their life rationally. And that is when society becomes an organism. Okay, society becomes an organism in the sense, if you and I look at our own bodies, we are complex multicellular organisms, and there is some kind of, uh, you know, what should I say, synergy uh, flowing throughout our body as long as we are alive. And that is what keeps us alive. So he says rationality is like that. Rationality is that which keeps the human being, or rather human society, from degenerating further into anything. Okay, so that is Weber for you. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Now, let me tell you something. I feel a headache coming on. So when we meet on Saturday, I'll pick up Habermas's Life World and connect these two. Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir. Take care.
Madam Vanshika? Vanshika is not there. Vanshika
That's
is
all good, sir.
okay. So we'll we'll kind of meet on Saturday, and I'll answer the question about Habermas because that has several intricate details. Because Habermas, when he created the life world, he was being extremely eclectic. He was taking systems analysis from David Easton and Gabriel Allman, and he was also taking from Marx. He was also taking from uh, scientists like Einstein and his uh, people who were in the 20th century. So we'll talk about Habermas the next time, and I don't want to rush through it now, and that is only going to not serve the purpose. So, Nida, the thing is that these things have to be explained in detail. If not, you will basically never get the hang of what the thing is really.
Hmm. Yes, sir.
So, I'll see you on Saturday, 4 o'clock.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So,
Madam Riddhi,
Hello, sir.
hello. Are we meeting? Are you coming on Saturday at 4 o'clock? Or have I driven you away? Am I the big demon that drives people away?
No, sir, I should hopefully be there.
Hopefully. That hopefully is the escape route. Um,
True, you always have to keep an escape open, sir.
I know, I understand. Um, my PhD supervisor always used to say, you are somebody who writes with a great deal of certainty, and if somebody questions you, you don't have a back door open. I tell them it's a question. They are not trying to kill me. Why will I want to run away from the back door? I'll stand there and answer the question if I can. Otherwise, I'll say thank you very much. I stand corrected or whatever. So that is the anecdote, Vanshika. Next time, a better anecdote. Yes, Sai Varun.
yes, sir. I know this is sort of a dumb question, but
Hmm.
since this is my first time ever, attending this, I wouldn't call this a class or something, but like a discussion sort of platform.
Hmm.
I've been trying to keep up the entire time, but I've been zoning out quite a bit because too many tangents, and I don't really have experience or context in terms of politics, philosophy, or whatever.
One of the good things about me, which is actually a bad thing, is that I tend to repeat a lot of things. So, what you might have missed today will definitely surface at another time.
So yeah, I have a small question. If you don't mind, could you just give me a place or like a book or whatever, a resource to start with, so that I could probably relate to whatever is being discussed better in the future?
Well, I pick up any philosophy, history of philosophy text, don't pick up those big fat volumes. Pick up a nice thin one, which will acquaint you with the basic concepts. Okay, so if you do that, you'll be more ready.
Any recommendations, sir?
There is C.L. Vapor, Wayper, C.L. Vapor, and there is who's the other writer?
C.L. Weber, I don't really think, nothing of that sort is popping up.
C.L. Vapor,
Okay.
Wayper,
Okay, yeah.
Vapor. It'll pop up. Just do a check of history of Western political thought books. Pick up if you find an Indian author, somebody like Sukhbir Singh, somebody like that. Okay, they are better than the others.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Right. All right then, ladies. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Sai Varun and Miss Riddhi Raman. I have a friend whom I call Rodeo Raman.
It's okay, sir. If you want, you can call me that.
Rodeo Raman?
Might as well, sir.
Might as well. That's good. That's good. That's the spirit. I like that spirit. And the great intellectual, after having deigned to attend the class, left in between.
Yes, sadly.
Yeah. These are things that he learned while he was in the cradle. And I'm teaching now. An old
Yeah,
man.
he learned them before he could walk, sir.
In the cradle. He knew it in the cradle. Okay. All right then. See you on Saturday.
See you, sir. Bye.
Yeah, bye, sir.